I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Channel 99 and Geno TV. Our guest today is Dalton Frazier, one of the principals of J. Pepper Frazier Company.
Yeah.
Good to have you, Dalton.
Good to
nice
see you.
to see
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
We're here to talk about the real estate market. What's
right.
going on? I think people are kind of interested in,
Yep.
and also to talk, focus a little bit on the high-end market because there seem to be an awful lot of houses out there for 5 million or 10 million and up. But let's talk generally about the real estate market first. How's it doing?
It's going very strongly. We've had a few good years so far, and this year seems very strong.
Right up there.
Actually, yeah, I was going through the stats, and basically, if you look at how the market's performed in the past few years, and how much volume we've closed up until the first half of the year, so we've closed about like 465 million thus far, and the second half of the year we traditionally close more than the first half. So if that stands true, we're on pace for another $1 billion year, and the $1 billion mark in my mind is really the benchmark of a very strong market. So I think we're on pace.
Is there anything that's selling particularly well within the market range?
Yeah, no, I would say a lot of the $5 million price point seems to be very sweet spot. You always have, certain areas like Cliff, anything in Brant Point that's decent will sell, priced right. And basically, I mean, as long as you price your property appropriately, listen to your broker, then it should get some action.
How many properties are there on the market for more than 10 million, roughly?
I'd probably say there's probably about 20 on the market. So there's definitely...
Is there action at that level?
There's starting to be. There's one property under agreement for over 20 million. And I think once people see that, and they see that closed or the news gets out, then it will kind of like trigger other people too.
Can you tell us what property that is?
Yeah, it's on Easton Street. It's Nelson Doubleday's old house. I can't remember the number. 28 maybe.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah, it's on Easton Street. It's beautiful. It has a dock. It's listed for 24 million, and I would say it's probably going to sell for 22 or so.
There's another property down there on the market for a similar amount, right?
Exactly. And it's actually a Butts property. So once that happens, then I really think other people who have this type of money are going to say, okay, someone else has confidence in the market. I'm not going to be the only one, and then they'll probably pull the trigger. We have a couple listings up in the $10 million area, and we're definitely starting to show them quite a bit. And traditionally August is when like the real big
buyers
come.
Having spent the summer here and falling in love.
Exactly. So yeah, no. So I think if that happens, which I'm confident it will, we're going to be off to. We're going to have a really strong year.
Has the profile of the buyers changed much in the last few years, or is it still pretty much financial services?
It's still pretty much financial services. We're definitely seems like we're getting some more people from Florida, Texas, and even a few California. But for the most part, it's still going to be New York, Boston, in the suburbs. DC, getting a lot of people from DC. Now they're direct flights right out of, I think, PWI, Reagan. Yeah. So that's definitely helped.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is a family business. You've been in it for a while, and your father was in it for many years before. How has the business changed over the years, and how has your approach to the business changed over the years?
Yeah. Well, I guess the most obvious is the internet. I have looked. We used to be at 28 Center Street upstairs, and we have an attic there, and we'd go and look. There's kind of this like whatever. We have boxes of materials, listings like my dad had back in the 80s, and it was just like newspaper ads, and you know, it would say, for more information, call this number. You know, there's no email, and like there's a fax number. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, the internet, the buyers are very savvy, the sellers are very savvy too, because they can do a lot of research online by themselves. So that's definitely a big part, and we're trying to stay ahead of the curve, but with technology. I mean, there's so much stuff coming out now. They can like map a house 3D, and you can actually visually walk through it, things like that.
What about Zillow? Has that had an impact, positive or negative, on the buyers?
It hasn't had much of an impact. You know, it's definitely a very powerful site, and buyers reference it quite a bit. Even sellers do. They'll say, you know, I looked on Zillow, my house, there's 325 new, you know, people looking at my property. That being said, it's sometimes the info can be a little inaccurate, because let's say you have a price change of a property. Zillow doesn't respond as quickly as our multiple listing service, and then so you have this inaccurate price still out in cyberspace, and yeah, it can be frustrating at times, but you know,
How are the property descriptions on Zillow? Are they pretty accurate?
Yeah, they're pretty accurate. I mean, Zillow for the most part will just pull a feed from like our multiple listing service or our website, so it's basically, you know, it says when you edit a listing, it kind of, there's a lag effect.
You say the approach is now much more electronic, of course, and people do it that way. But do people ever buy a property sight unseen?
Yeah, they have. They definitely have.
Really?
I mean, a lot of people are first tenants. They first rent here, so they know the island. They know where they want to be.
Right.
And let's say it's middle of winter, they can't get here, but their dream property comes on the market. We'll call them and say, hey, listen, you know, this is on the market. You got to pull the trigger. I mean, it's what you want. It's priced well. Let's just do it. And then they do it. And hopefully it all works out.
Let's talk about the moderate end of the market first.
Okay.
The affordable, supposedly affordable end of the market.
Right.
What is? I mean, how many? Are there any houses on the market for less than $1 million?
There are a few, but they're not, you know, the most desirable.
Right.
Probably need work.
Or are about to have the ocean bring them down.
Yeah, definitely, exactly. So those are that. The affordability is interesting though, because interest rates are so low that now purchasing power is that's higher than if interest rates were higher. So, you know, if the contractor, you know, carpenter's out there making $50 an hour, $60 an hour, that's, you know, like $100,000 a year that he's bringing home. And then, you know, if it's a husband and wife and the wife has a job, you know, the median income, household income is probably like 130 plus grand. And with that, you know, I think with these interest rates, you can afford a $700,000 house. I mean, there aren't many, but you know, they're out there.
What effect if this development on Old South Road takes place?
Yeah.
Other things like that on a smaller scale that are being talked about. How do you see them impacting the market? Do you think, to the extent I'm not talking about the ones that are affordable by statute, but I'm talking about the ones that are part of the
market rate.
Market rate, but in overall scheme of things, are relatively more affordable than many.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's a supply-demand thing, and you're going to bring more supply. So, if demand doesn't stay up with it, it's going to bring prices down.
There have been at least one or two of these developments where the houses have not sold, haven't there?
They kind of got started during the bust.
Right.
You know, they kind of got started during the boom, and then by the time they were permitted and started building and that sort of thing, you know, the market had turned, and then the developer said, okay, well, if they're not selling, why am I going to keep building?
Right.
But now they're kind of getting going again. And they're nice. Like that's a good example. I mean, Beach Plum Village, those you can get a brand new 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath house for low millions, and it's a really nice community. Has a pool, has tennis courts, a little gym. So, yeah. And that guy, that developer, he's starting to build again. He stopped, but he's going again.
How do people settle on a broker? Has anybody done any studies on what brings them? Is it because they've rented through you? Is it because they're walking down the street and just come in the office? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of the above, but it's definitely a very relationship-driven business. Typically, a buyer will start as a tenant. Yeah, there's almost a cycle. So they'll start as a tenant, become a buyer, then the buyer becomes a seller,
or a renter,
or
rents out property,
right, or becomes a lessor or landlord. But as long as you do your job and give them good service, hopefully they'll stick with you. I mean, it's very competitive. I think there are about 300 plus agents on island and about 30 real estate offices. So it is.
Is that number of agents growing?
With a rise in market, it definitely grows. Yeah.
And when it
and with a fall in market, it shrinks.
Shrinks.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, of those 300, a lot of them are
part-time.
Part-time, exactly.
At most.
Yeah, at most, exactly. But the rent, like being a broker who primarily rents leases properties for homeowners, I mean, they make a living out of it. So, yeah.
Is it? I mean, how many of those who just do rentals are there? Primarily rentals.
I would say, I mean, most agents will do both rentals and sales, but the ones that like kind of live off the rent. I mean, rentals are nice because they're kind of annuity,
steady stream.
Steady stream. So I would say most of the agents will do rentals. I would say.
But I mean, what I meant was how many just focus on rentals rather than you do sales on an occasional basis.
Yeah, I would say probably, if I think who were like, I would say there's probably 20 agents out there who are like basically strictly rentals, and they do a ton of rentals. And
they do most of it through the internet, I presume.
And they do, exactly. So it's all basically, you email listings to the tenant, and then they look online at the pictures, and they rarely come on island to look at the property before they rent it. So it's and that's another thing, like, as long as the client, you build your trust with the client, like, and if something goes wrong, let's say, like, if the fridge breaks and you get on it and you just tell them, hey, I'm doing my best, and you do get it done, they're going to appreciate that. They just want to know that you're out there and, you're not, like, blowing them off.
You're not going for the weekend.
Exactly.
What don't people like about Nantucket? What causes them to say they're not going to rent or buy or not going to come back? Are there issues like that? Could something that's going on now become a bigger problem as we?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the biggest complaint we hear is the traffic. People definitely don't like that. I'd say the two biggest complaints are traffic and accessibility. When people, drive 4 hours from New York, get here, and their flight's canceled because it's fogged in, and then they have to spend the night on the Cape.
And they lose a day.
And it's, they only have 7-day vacation. Right. They're like, oh, this isn't fun. So it's accessibility and traffic. And other than that, though, I mean, Nantucket is a pretty amazing place. Given, like world-class downtown restaurants, all the conservation property, the beaches. I mean, if you can get here, you're pretty excited.
The traffic clearly is an issue, but I find it kind of ironic because most of the places that these people come from have a lot worse traffic than Nantucket does, even these 2 weeks in August when it's at its worst.
It's all about expectations, though. they're expecting no traffic. And, even for people that live here year round, we're sitting here. I mean, I guess that makes sense because we sit here in 10-minute traffic and
Right.
we're used to no traffic. But yeah, it's all about expectations, right? So, and if their expectations aren't met, then they're not going to be happy. And yeah.
But it hasn't reached the point where you all see it as a serious.
No, it
problem.
hasn't yet. I've definitely thought about it. Like maybe there should be some sort of ban on how many cars can be on island at one time.
It's interesting because the numbers, I follow the the car statistics, the transportation statistics for vehicles on the Steamship Authority. The numbers that have really jumped are the trucks,
Right.
particularly since the end of the recession. The number of visitors' cars it's gone up, but it's like 1%, 2%.
Yeah.
And now maybe it's a tipping point, I don't know, but
Right.
it's interesting that the numbers have not increased as much as people seem to think they have.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It is the trucks, it's the contractors and landscapers and that sort of thing. So, obviously it's their business and they need their truck, but maybe there's, a happy medium where they have to carpool or something. But it's true. It's primarily, the people working.
Right. Dalton Frazier, thank you very much for
Thank
sharing
you,
your
Dan.
views with us.
I
Nice
appreciate
to have
it.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.